Welcome back to Recap. I'm Caroline Derby, joined by the wonderful Roby Brock. Give yourself some more credit, Roby.
Too dramatic of a pause.
Drum roll for Roby Brock, please. Well, Roby, big weekend that we've had so far. Big weekend in Little Rock. I will also say big weekend nationally for any of my pageant fans out there. We always love to support our Miss Arkansas. She competed at Miss America this weekend. She took home a talent preliminary earlier in the week, so pretty big week for the state and on the national level, and then also here in Arkansas too.
I actually watched the preliminary video, and I mean, she sounded really good.
Oh my goodness, she's amazing. Yes, Kennedy Holland, fabulous girl. She went to Ouachita for a year, and that's I got to know her when I competed in Miss Arkansas too, in Miss Arkansas's teen, and then went on to win Miss Arkansas this past year. She's at UCA though right now, and great girl, great voice, very talented. Very proud of her. Ooh, are you ready for this one?
Yeah.
Clogging.
Clogging.
Yes.
Can you do some right now?
Oh, I'd love to. Hey, you practice those dances like, I probably practiced that dance for 2+ hours a day for a year, and I can still do it. 4 years removed from the pageant, 3 years removed from the pageant world now.
One of these days, you're going to get older, and you're going to try to clog, and you're going to pull a muscle.
I'm going to hurt myself.
Or something.
I know.
That's when reality is going to hit, and you're going to go, I'm too old to clog.
I'm too old to clog. Oh, I loved it too. There's a difference, everyone, before we really get into what we're talking about. Tap, you only have one. It's attached to the shoe, Roby. This is a little dance lesson. You have a tap, and it's attached fully to your shoe. So every stroke is one sound. But with a clog, there's one fully attached, and then there's one halfway attached. So there's two sounds that come from every stroke of the shoe. So you get a little extra jingle in there. It's also a little bit of a different stylistic.
So it's like a double tap.
It's like yeah. And
So
it's got a little jingle in there.
Equals double tap. Is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Next week, I want you to clog for us.
Hey, we can maybe pull up. I will bring some shoes. They're bedazzled.
Much of a noise on this carpet.
Yeah, they don't. They.
Do on the table.
Yeah.
It's a hard surface.
I think it could hold me.
We've gotten off track.
I think we have to. But hey, lots of fun here on Recap. I do want to start, though, some sad news from Arkansas this week. State Senator Gary Stubblefield passed away this week. He was 74 years old, represented some parts of Franklin County, Sebastian County, kind of that area of the state. And he had been serving in the legislature for a while now.
It was first in 2011.
I believe so. Right. He did a term in the House, I believe, before he moved over to the Senate. And, he's a Republican senator, had a lot of conservative values. Most recently, I think he had been making headlines in the political world for representing parts of Franklin County and being opposed as a Republican to the proposed Franklin County prison. He was a leader in that effort to, in his eyes, hopefully prevent that from happening and taking place in Franklin County. And that right there alongside him was and still is State Senator Brian King, who represents some of that area of the state as well, not necessarily the area where the prison is going, but still, yes, exactly. And so I actually talked to Senator Brian King earlier this week about his relationship with Senator Stubblefield and what that looked like. And according to him, he went to Senator Stubblefield's kitchen and sat down at his table. I guess this is probably 15 years plus ago now, and said, "Hey, I think you should run for office. You'd be great. Why don't you do it?" Yeah. And kind of, I always like to hear those like political origin stories, and that's how some people start. I believe Senator Stubblefield had served in local county government, maybe city government, a few different positions there. And according to Senator King, he had heard that Senator Stubblefield was a man of his word. And he said that those type of people need to be in leadership positions and need to be in the Senate and the Arkansas legislature. So heard he was a man of his word and wanted him to run. He did run. He won, I guess, in the House, as we mentioned, and then went over to the Senate where he'd been serving. Most recently, I believe his term was set to expire in 2029.
Yeah, he wasn't up for re-election this next time.
Yeah, so he had a few more years left in his term, but something that Senator King said, working relationship wise, he believed that Senator Stubblefield never changed who he was throughout the Arkansas legislature. And according to Senator King, there are people out there who go in thinking one thing and really have these certain core values. And we've seen it a lot, too, where sometimes the politics can change people and change maybe their views or what they originally stood for and different things like that, whether they know it or not sometimes, right? But Senator King said that Senator Stubblefield never did. He always stuck to his values and what he believed and didn't let the politics of it all change him. But on a personal note, and this is something I really enjoyed hearing from Senator King too, was that when we outside looking in, I think people can get into a tendency of there are lawmakers, they're strict and they make our laws and they debate and they, whatever it is, they have these values. I don't like those values. I love those values, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, I mean, they're people with personalities, right? And I think sometimes we forget about that. And it was neat to hear Senator King talk about Senator Stubblefield and the relationship they had. They loved old movies. They loved old Westerns. They had jokes about Lonesome Dove. They were quoting different movies all the time and different things like that. And even down to like they had nicknames or like he mentioned something about Senator King held a press conference one time and Senator Stubblefield just walked in and joined right in with him, and then later they're quoting movies together and different things like that. So I think it's neat to see that relationship turn from a professional relationship also, but a friendship. And we see that a lot too. Just you're spending hours upon hours and days upon days with a certain group of people. You have to either make friends or I guess you don't, but most of them make friends, I would hope. So
it's just pretty collegial group down there. I think, to me, I mean, I had some dealings with Senator Stubblefield too. And like you said, he was a person of faith and he was a person of his word.
Mm-hmm.
And he had, you kind of knew where you stood with him. There was no kind of gray area with him. He was pretty upfront with you on stuff like that. Interesting to me, you mentioned, he's a Republican and he's opposing the governor who's a Republican's prison plan there. This is just kind of case in point of where local politics can trump party politics sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, people, you got to represent the people you're hearing from. And so he was hearing from a lot of people opposed to that, prison being located there in Franklin County. And that's just a place where you will see, departure from party politics and things like that. So not super surprising that he would be on the side of his constituents versus the side of his governor and, couldn't probably pull them along on that. And that's where he stood. The other thing, too, is there'll be a special election to fill the vacancy because there's so much time left on his term. And the way that process works is the governor sends a letter to the two political parties, and each leader of the political party has to kind of poll their membership and decide, do you want to have a convention to pick a candidate, or do you want to have a special primary/runoff election to pick a candidate? And if one of the parties picks the election process versus the convention process, then both parties have to have an election. So it'll be very interesting to see. I think there's like a 10-day window before that has to be decided, but we'll learn that next week probably.
Okay.
Whether the governor's going to call a special election where everybody has to vote in the primary and potentially runoff, and then a special general, or if there's going to be a convention to pick candidates, and then there'll just be a general election on that. Okay. And she could time all of that to kind of fold into next year's primaries if she wanted to. But she may want to call it earlier than that because that'd be a long time before filling that vacancy.
Yeah. What does that look like with like the fiscal session coming up too? Just would it be an empty seat?
If it's not replaced by then, it'll just be an empty seat. I don't think she appoints a replacement in the interim. It has to be that election process. So the convention process speeds up the selection of the candidates because then your local county committee meets and they pick a candidate. And now you have the Democrat, now you have the Republican if it comes down to that. And then you just set the general election date. But if it's a primary, then you got to have a period for campaigning, a period for the runoff, and then a period for the general election. And that can be a little bit trickier. But the governor sets that calendar.
Okay.
So we'll watch. She'll issue a proclamation on that. So we'll see.
Okay.
See how that plays out.
Yeah. And Senator Stubblefield will lie in state at the state capitol rotunda on Thursday from, I believe, 10 to 2 on Thursday of this week. And then his funeral is in Charleston. I might be wrong on that, but it's definitely in that area on Saturday. So, yes.
Can you name the other most famous politician from Charleston, Arkansas? Pop quiz trivia.
Ooh, I failed.
All right.
Who is it?
I bet our producer, Lindsay, knows. Senator and former Governor Dale Bumpers.
Oh, he's from Charleston?
Charleston, Arkansas. Yeah.
That's why I hang out with Roby Brock, so I learn fun facts.
The only lawyer in a one-lawyer town of Charleston.
Oh.
I've recently been reading through some old newspapers, and I stumbled across the 1970 election, which is when Dale Bumpers got elected. He came out of nowhere and won that race. So, but it just, looking at the old ads in newspapers and how they used to campaign and stuff, it's quite different than the way things are today. So, but yeah.
Very neat. Yeah. Well, looking forward to honoring Senator Stubblefield this week. We talked a lot about the Senate. Let's kind of switch gears. We'll go over to the House now. We have Representative Austin McCollum is not running for, I guess, would it be re-election, or he's re-election? He is going to run for Benton County Judge up in Northwest Arkansas. I don't know him too well. I think I did one interview with him about a bill maybe in this session. But yeah, he's getting out of the legislature and hoping to do some county government now.
Yeah, I have not talked to him yet, but Austin McCollum has been a House Majority Leader before. He's recruited some of the candidates that make up the supermajority in the Arkansas legislature right now. He's been a behind-the-scenes candidate for Speaker of the House before. It just never materialized for him. So I would suspect that he's decided he's done what he can do in the state legislature, and maybe just looking for a new challenge in politics. When you get into kind of county politics like that, it's a whole different dynamic of what you do for constituents, and so you don't have to come to Little Rock.
Yeah.
Which can sometimes be attractive to a lot of, I've seen other legislators move into county politics before. And then at the county level, you're dealing with, roads and infrastructure and development issues, and there's just a whole different gamut of kind of political topics that you deal with at that level. And so I'm sure he's up for just a different challenge. And Benton County is busting at the seams, as we all well know.
Right.
And so being the county judge in Benton County, if he were to get elected, would be a really large full-time job. There's just, it's the headquarters of Walmart. And J.B. Hunt's headquarters is in Benton County as well, and they're growing by leaps and bounds. So Benton County judge he'd have a lot on his plate, I can assure you.
I'm sure. Lots going on up there too. But someone is running to fill his seat, announced, I guess, Brian, how do you say his last name, Armis?
Yeah, I think he's a JP.
He is,
I don't know him, but we'll see. There may be some others that will jump in that race.
Yeah.
But he showed up soon after the announcement, and there was a laundry list of existing legislators that have already endorsed him.
Oh, wow, okay.
Race. So I think that he'll be the odds-on favorite, and it sounds like there might have been a little timing and coordination on the announcement.
Perhaps a little coordination with that.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. That Republican primary, March 3rd, 2026, maybe? So
far out on the calendar, it's not on my calendar yet. I like it when people ask me to come speak someplace, and they're like, what are you doing next April 17th? I'm like,
I don't know.
It's September. I assure you, I'm
you don't have your.
On that day,
And I'm the opposite. I've got my big calendar and my planner and my phone calendar. So get booked up,
Yeah. Clogging lessons.
Yeah, I teach clogging lessons on the side. Just kidding. I used to, though, back in the day. Oh, yeah. Back in Arkadelphia, I did.
The theme of today's show is going to be clogging.
Clogging. Yes. Title of today's show, Clogging with Caroline.
I like that. Could we rename the show instead of Recap? We'll just call it Clogging with Caroline.
Yep. Kind of fun.
And Roby's the sidekick.
And Roby's the sidekick tapper. I'm just kidding. Moving on, though. This week was one of the first meetings for the brand new State Library Board. Roby, a story and law and coverage that I've followed at least a lot over the last I guess 7 months now, has been the state library board. There's lots of controversy around the previous library board and decisions they were making about whether it's censorship, the type of books kids can read, what goes in libraries, that type of thing. Some were very outspoken on not wanting certain books to be in libraries. Some were like, hey, let's let everybody read whatever they want, leave it up to the parents, whoever. And there's a lot more details that go into that, obviously, but the gist of that. But this past legislative session, there was a bill ran that turned into a law that would essentially wipe the state library board and allow the governor to appoint new members. And so that was announced, I believe, maybe 2-3 weeks ago, were the new library board members. And I can go through some of those in a second, but they'll have staggered terms. So, one might serve for 1 year, then 3, 5, a few for 7 years, all just kind of depending on, I think it was a random draw that they ended up doing on who would serve what. And anyway, so kind of interesting. We'll see how this new board, now that it's been appointed by Governor Sanders, will act and what will happen there. But
I find a really interesting policy because I can tell you covering legislative politics for almost 30 years, being involved in it or covering it for almost 30 years, it's rare that you see a board completely disbanded like that. I think there's been some stuff in the agriculture field before, but it was more about consolidation and reorganization of some stuff. But I can't recall, it may have happened, but I just can't recall an existing board being wiped clean like this, and let's just appoint new members again.
Yeah.
That's kind of a first for me. It's a bit unprecedented. So, in some respects, it's like, is that how we're going to solve all of our problems of dysfunction? Now we're just going to wipe them clean and do it this way? I don't know. It's just, I've not seen that done before. And to be perfectly honest with you, I didn't even know we had a state library board until about a year ago. So
neither did I.
For 29 years, I'm like, there's a state library? I mean, I would have never known.
And I didn't really, clue into that either until there was some issues in Saline County with their county library board. And I believe they're actually, that's like an issue that's ongoing still too over there. People disagreeing with some of the decisions, the board maybe not agreeing completely. Just kind of same as it was on the state level, but we'll see how that plays out there as well. I believe some litigation along with that too.
Yeah, up in Van Buren too, there's another, there's been some big local library board controversy there too, so.
The new members are Jack Fortner. He's a former state representative. Lindley McMillan, she lives in Benton, and McMillan is the governor's director of constituent services right now. Sydney McKenzie, she's from Rogers, and she is the wife of Republican Representative Britt McKenzie, and she's the only one who was on the last state library board who got reappointed.
Okay.
Yes. And then Emmeline Pilkington, the wife of Representative Erin Pilkington.
Instead of spouses to these boards now.
Annette Bailey, she's from Mountain Home. She is a Baptist. She co-pastors a Baptist church over there. And then
is her husband in the legislature?
Her husband is not in the legislature. He legislates. Yes, I believe. Yes, he's also a pastor as well. And then Clay Goff of BB, and his wife is not in the legislature. Just making sure. He has previously served on the BB School Board and the Goff Library, and he serves on the board there. And that building is named after his father, who donated that building over there. So they elected their chair. It's Clay Goff as their chair, and their vice chair is Sydney McKenzie. I don't know what news is to come out of that board, but just following up with the state law that we have been following. And there we go.
For the constituents of the state, no news would be good news.
No news.
I feel like some of these boards should not make a lot of news,
Yeah.
It's just we've done our duty, our job, and we didn't really make a lot of news doing it. And that's all right. I think it's okay for government to not make news all the time. Sometimes people don't want government meddling in their lives. They just want them to perform the oversight function they're supposed to perform and do the work they're supposed to do.
Carry on. Now, Roby, you had a pretty interesting article about agriculture in Arkansas that has sparked some different meetings around Arkansas. Tell us about that.
So, if people are unaware, we're in a farming crisis right now. lack of a farm bill over the last several years, low commodity prices, high input costs, and then the trade wars that are going on. That has been a formula for disaster for Arkansas farmers. I know I've talked to a lot of farmers who will tell me, I will lose $700 an acre on my farm this year. That's a lot of loss right there. Whereas you want to make money on every acre, you know. And so some of them are not even planting, because I just rather make nothing than lose $700 an acre. You know, I'm not going to make money, so it's more advantageous for me to just not do anything, sort of thing. Which is not good for our food supply and is not good for our economy when there's not things generated. Arkansas's biggest economic sector is agriculture. So, you know, billions and billions of dollars of Arkansas's economy. So it's at a crisis point, and I think what has to happen is the rest of the farm bill needs to be put into place, because that will set some policy at the federal level that will affect the local level here. I think there's going to have to be some sort of emergency subsidy for farmers.
Okay.
And this has happened in the past. I think that there's going to have to be billions of dollars in supplemental assistance for farmers to help them just survive and stay alive. The article that we've put out there, it's talked to some farmers that have talked to the parts of the policy that need to change, and it also indicates how dire it is for many of them, and the fact that, you know, farm bankruptcies are on the rise. There are farmers that are exiting the business. They don't show up in bankruptcies. They just decide not to farm anymore, so they're not in the statistics, but they're falling out of that economic sector. And then there's a ripple effect on all of this too, because if you're not farming, or farming's not profitable, you're not buying the heavy duty equipment that goes into that. You're not buying the seed and the fertilizer that goes into that. And those are all ancillary businesses that support the farming economy. So this is pretty dire. And in Arkansas, you've got John Bozeman is the Senate chairman of the Agriculture Committee, and Rick Crawford serves on the House Agriculture Committee. So two of Arkansas's 6 legislators, federal legislators, are influential in this process. I think they are having trouble building the consensus out among urban legislators in Congress who want to see things protected in the SNAP program, for instance, which is a part of the Farm Bill as well.
Okay.
And so there's just some urban versus rural politics here where they're just not finding consensus for stuff. And the penalty is Arkansas farmers and other farmers across the country are really in a fight for their life to survive. And so I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. And it's already as bad as it's ever been since the mid-1980s, when there was a huge farming crisis in this country. I can assure you, you're too young to remember this, but there was a big movement in the mid-1980s called Farm Aid. And it was like a bunch of musicians, particularly country musicians, got together and did they raised millions, if not billions of dollars strictly for farmers through a big series of concerts and stuff like that. It was that bad, and it is that bad now. So I think we're going to see a lot more on that front. That story that you mentioned is closing in on like 150,000 views in less than a week. I mean, it has been widespread circulated. It has led to impromptu meetings of farmers. There was one up in northeast Arkansas with a couple of hundred farmers there, just voicing their concerns to their elected officials. How it translates back into Washington, D.C., there should be some urgency for this. There should be some immediate action. I just don't think Congress functions that way, so I'm not expecting it to happen.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, the power of a lot of people getting together and then seeing how it impacts or doesn't impact national politics too.
I'll be curious to see this too. In 2010, when Arkansas it made its first big shift from extremely Democratic state to Republican. So there was about a 3-election cycle in that 2010 to 2014 period. 2010 was the really big turning point. Blanche Lincoln was our U.S. Senator, a Democrat, and she was the chair of the Agriculture Committee, and she lost rural Arkansas by big numbers over her vote for the Affordable Care Act. But basically, rural Arkansas threw out the chairman of the agriculture committee
Wow.
that was in office at the time. And that was where we started seeing the state go from blue to red. I will be curious to see in this next election cycle, will rural Arkansas penalize the Republican legislators that are in charge now in terms of sending a signal, sending a message? We don't like the direction that you're taking this thing right here. I don't know if they will or not. That's something I will be watching for in the election cycle and certainly in the election results. And it will determine, I think, whether or not, particularly the Democratic Senate candidates that we challenge in Tom Cotton, do they do better than expected because of the uncertainty and the anger that's in the farming community, the rural community right now. I'll be watching that. That's going to be a really interesting political dynamic for us to watch.
Yeah, I think so too. It will be interesting to see. And then, I mean, at the state level, Roby, like, is there much to do at the state level on that?
It's really, I mean, it's highly federal. So
Okay.
most of that is federal policy in terms of how crop insurance works and how reference prices work and what's going to be paid to these farmers for their stuff, and even just it's international in terms of how commodities are even priced. So there's really not a lot at the state level that can be done other than just local tax relief and state tax relief, which would help, but it's not going to solve the problem. There's very little policy that's really state specific on that.
Okay. All righty, Roby. Hey, well, thanks for recapping it all with me today.
Well, you're welcome. And next week, we'll clog.
And we'll clog next week. Let us know if you would like Roby to tap or clog.
I'll make sure the music works.
He'll press play for me.
I'll DJ, you clog.
Okay, that's a deal. That's a fair deal. I think so. All right, we'll see you next week. Thanks for joining us.